of all the sports teams that exist, certain countries have a big one or two, but we're proud to say our podcast is about the biggest team in the entire world.
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Yeah! This is the World's Team Podcast. All about the world's team, the Dallas Cowboys, baby. We're here to redefine what it means to be a fan of the gridiron game. It's not just America's team anymore. Nope. We're taking that star-studded pride and spreading it across the globe. Each week, we dive into all things Cowboys. From game analysis that'll have you on the edge of your seat, to reactions and all the latest news. Whether it's free agency frenzy, draft day drama, or injury reports that make us want to hug our lucky jerseys a little tighter. We're bringing in fan groups from all over the place, from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. Everybody gets to share their 2 cents on America's favorite team.
And here we go!
America's team! Mexico's team! World's team! My Dallas Cowboys!
And now your hosts, Paul Stewart and Mike Poland.
Hello, Cowboys Nation. Welcome to another episode of the World's Team. Remember, it's not just America's team, it is the World's Team. Today is Saturday, the 18th of, January 2025.
January, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know my bearings at the moment. My goodness, because as of right now, it's crazy time here in the Dallas Cowboys right now. But as always, I am joined by my co-host, my brother-in-arms, Mr. Mike Poland. How we doing, bro?
Yeah, all good. I mean, it's cold outside, but the Dallas Cowboys news is certainly not cold this week.
No,
there's plenty to get into.
Oh, that is an understatement. It is an understatement, Mike. It's silly season right now. I guess the first thing we could really go before we start diving into the whole potential head coaches is how the departure went with Mike McCarthy, I guess. Yeah. I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I'm like, you denied him an interview with Chicago, but you fired him anyway.
Yeah.
And as much as I appreciate Jerry and Steven for what they've done, building the star, building AT&T Stadium, making us the richest franchise, but we're not getting really much in return by getting championships. And what really kind of effed me off in particular is what they did to Cooper Rush in that last game. Like with the signing bonus, the $250,000.
He would never have got it, mind.
I know, but still, though, it seems kind of. I get it, but at least he could still go out there and still try for it, and it might give Rush maybe potential to kind of give him a better opportunity, find him in another team next year or come back or whatever that may be.
In order to get that bonus, Cooper Rush would have had to have played 81 snaps.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's a lot of snaps in one game. I mean, it wasn't that far off it, but I think it was like in the end on offense, there was about 70-something snaps. So it wasn't that far. You could have probably designed some things, but, that's asking. That's a lot of snaps. But yeah, I agree though in terms of how they did Mike McCarthy dirty. I was unimpressed by that, and it shows poor management because you say to them, "Oh, we're going to deny you talking to the Chicago Bears." The irony is obviously since all that has happened, Mike McCarthy is now looking into having an interview with the Chicago Bears, but I think what's happened there is there was somewhere a bit of a disconnect because it turns around then and Jerry and the front office turned around and said, well, we were actually surprised Mike McCarthy went. That took us by surprise. So I don't know where there's a disconnect. There's something going wrong in the communication side of it all? Because I think Jerry and Stephen were expecting him to come back. He didn't come back. That's why there was the denial to talk to the Bears, and then that happens, and I don't know. I mean, we're not behind closed doors when all these conversations happen.
I have my theory, Mike. Here's my theory.
Go for it, bro.
We obviously could have got rid of Mike McCarthy last year after the Green Bay game. We kept him on, right? So what I'm thinking is, with him now going out of contract year and stuff like that, I think Jerry and Stephen already have guys in mind who they want to bring in to replace Mike McCarthy. But the reason why they offered Mike McCarthy a contract was a very low ball offer where Mike McCarthy. So it kind of like gave Mike McCarthy no choice in the matter to say, I can't accept that. I'm sorry. I'm going to go elsewhere. So in a way, in theory, Mike McCarthy was pushed out. Now, we could argue as much as we want, like, would we been happy to see Mike McCarthy back or gone? Like, it's kind of 50-50, I would say, in realistic terms, because he gave us 3 12-5 seasons, obviously last season there, but with that has been some questionable play calling, still not able to score in the red zone. So that penalties, so there's still that there is needed a massive change in the Cowboys. Like, and first and foremost, I wish Mike McCarthy all the best. Like, he had, like, he gave us some really good times and stuff like that. Like, but like not like major highlight. Like, we had some really good wins in certain teams over the course of his tenure, but I think it is now the right time to move on. So, but for how Jerry and Stephen conducting themselves, it just doesn't sit well with me. It really doesn't.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was either going to be the amount of money or how they were structuring his contract. And because obviously the head coaching jobs, there's like, 5 head coaching jobs or what have you. Obviously, one of them includes Dallas, so it's kind of negates with Mike McCarthy there. But, you know, if Mike McCarthy wants to crack on and go with another team and get a better offer, he had to, like, just be like, no, I've got to go do this now because these head coaching jobs are shrinking fast. I need to go and start.
Oh yeah, 100%. And especially now, like, even with the playoffs still happening this weekend, which we will give our predictions at the end of the show. But teams will want to kind of quickly establish their coaching staff, so therefore they can get in early and start evaluating players and start building their futures. So the longer we leave it, the worse it's going to get. So, but yeah, it's but I don't know about you, Mike, but it's with all the names that's cropping up right now, and we're going to dive through as many of the names out the hat in this show today. But we will start this show as the fact that Cowboys Nation, and I mean the mass majority of Cowboys Nation, do not want Kellen Moore. I am one of them. You're one of them. Like, our good friends across all the Cowboys content creators, like Cowboys Can Fan, Anthony, Cowboys Chris, like everyone, Law Nation's out there. He doesn't want Kellen Moore. Big Game James doesn't want him. J Tut doesn't want him. Everyone does not want Kellen Moore. Yeah, he may have scored as one of the top offenses in one season, highest scoring offenses, but he made some really boo-boo decision making when it comes to play calling. And again, the same problems allied. We were terrible in the red zone. And we saw Kellen Moore go to Los Angeles, did a terrible time there with supposedly one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and Justin Herbert, and a really good wide receiving core, a really good structured offense, and still couldn't do much with it. Goes to Philadelphia, and here's my opinion on Philadelphia, right? I still believe it's Nick Sirianni is calling all the shots. Because when you think about it, right? How many of the years now as Sirianni or the Eagles offense, just in general, despite of the offensive coordinators, the offense has remained the same. To me, Kellen Moore is nothing more but a placeholder. That's the way I see it. He's not a head coach.
You like how the Eagles' offense is set up. It's very different to how Kellen Moore would like it to work. That's definite. With the way that offensive line, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts is, a running quarterback, a scrambling quarterback, rushing quarterback. You see it's very different to what Kellen is kind of aligned with. So it does make sense what you're saying.
Yeah, so I just don't think I think Kellen Moore's in Philadelphia just there just to being told what to do and not throw in his input. Well, he will have his input, obviously. He might have his own design plays or whatever that may be, but he is certainly not in control of that offense. To me, that's Sirianni, if I'm being honest. And just because the Eagles went 14-3 in the regular season, they're now in the divisional game against the LA Rams. There has been some more questionable parts from their offense as well in some games where they've managed to scale victories and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I just don't see the appeal when it comes to Kellen Moore. We've had him here for X amount of years as a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator. Honestly, and this is my take, I would rather have Jason Garrett back rather than Kellen Moore. That's how bad I like. This is how much I strongly disagree of having Kellen Moore in Dallas. I strongly disagree with it. Nothing against him personally, nothing. I just don't think he's the guy. I really don't.
I'm gonna agree with you. I mean, look, there's familiarity with Jerry Jones, the front office, the team, Dak. That's a plus, and that's
is it though? Is it? Let's be honest
in terms of the offense, in that he knows what he's dealing with. He knows some of the players already. That is a plus. But other than that, you kind of go, well, what else is there? But the thing is you look at this, he has no head coaching experience. He's had failures with Cowboys in the playoffs. And I just think all of that, when you look at how Jerry wants to go about business at this stage, you kind of well, these aren't the check marks that you look for in a head coach coming to Dallas. It's just
especially if you've been waiting for nearly 30 years since our last Super Bowl. Nearly 30 years. It's getting ridiculous now. It's the fans are not happy. I'm not happy. You're not happy. Our UK Cowboys fans, our other show, all of our guys in the admin, all the guys in the fan group, we're not happy. Internationally, the Cowboys Nation is not happy. The idea of bringing Kellen Moore in, and that's a fact.
Yeah. I think other than the familiarity side, it's what else is there Kellen can offer you? And it's just I just don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see anything else. And
Okay. So I've got a counter argument to familiarity, Mike. I've got a counter argument towards that. Look at Sean Payton, what he's done to Denver. First season, but with a rookie quarterback, etc. But the fact is, he went to Denver not knowing really much of the personnel or whoever in that. He came in there cold. Came in there really cold. Same with Jim Harbaugh with the LA Chargers. Both of them made the playoffs this year. So I don't buy the whole familiarity. I think being thrown into the lion's den and made out of it is the more way of getting the best out of the coach. Because that shows more of a test. Dan Campbell, perfect example. There's been a bit of resilience with Dan Campbell. Bad first season, but every season after it's gotten better and better and better for Detroit. So why do we need to keep going back to people that have already been in the building? This is what I don't understand. I'd rather have a fresh face, a different perspective, different outlook to kind of reassess the team and see where it takes forward. Because I think that is the problem. We've got too many yes people in Dallas. That's the problem. Where it comes to whoever's talking to Jerry's ear, when it comes to the draft process, wherever it comes to the coaching, it's just a yes culture. This needs to change.
Yeah, and you know, it's so tricky, and like I just think look at like say this season now with the injuries, right? I mean, Mike McCarthy had his hands full with that. Imagine a guy like Kellen Moore trying to deal with that.
He would, well, I don't think he would be able to cope with it. I don't. I really don't.
Then there you go.
And
You know what I mean?
that is a really good argument, Mike. Really good argument. And I totally agree with you on that one. Like, because he's unproven to deal with that. Like, yeah, I mean, as an offensive coordinator, he has lost offensive weapons before, but it's a completely different ball game when you're the head coach when you need to deal with the whole roster.
Yeah, and you know, a head coach when things are going good, they're going good, and his life is easy. You know, you're not really bothered about your head coach at that point. What you look to your head coach for is when the chips are down. That's when you need a good head coach when you know you're on the slippery slope, and you need to get it's your head coach that has to bind everything together to get you back up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at just like Kellen's personalized type, and you know when you think of how he was as an offensive coordinator in Dallas, you just kind of look at that and go, "There's just not enough panache there to deal with that."
I had to laugh, and I'm totally in agreement. Our good friend Jeff Kavanagh on DLS Sports,
Yeah.
he's like, Kellen Moore does not have the facial of a head coach. What
No,
he means,
he doesn't.
he doesn't look like a head coach. He doesn't have the energy of a head coach. Like
The personality.
when you look at these other guys like Robert Saleh, who we will talk about later, like he has that pure like really wants to drive it down your throats, like your Dan Campbell's, etc. Like all like Dan Campbell's not obviously he's not going to be. He's at Detroit. He's not a candidate. I just want to make that clear. All right, he's the head coach for the Detroit Lions, and he's doing really well. But what I'm saying is, it's like we need a head coach is going to act like a head coach. It's like take on the responsibility, take on the hard questions, take on the hard risks. I don't think Kellen's up to it. I really don't.
No. I don't feel it. I don't feel or see that one at all. I mean, like, you know, let's play devil's advocate, and it does happen. We'll do the usual thing we do, Paul, and get behind them. But there's gonna be an area of nervousness.
I will say, Mike, when it comes to Thanksgiving 2025, and if the head coach is Kellen Moore, it's not going to bring that same excitement for the game. It's not. Fans are not going to be screaming to renew their season tickets. Fans are not going to be screaming to buy their new merch. Like it's very disheartening. It's actually pushing fans away. If I'm being honest,
it can do. Yeah, I agree.
like even just from what was it last year when we were doing our interviews for defensive coordinator, the idea of Rex Ryan and stuff like that, fans like, what in the earth are we doing trying to interview Rex Ryan? He's been out of the league for so many years. He's got like, don't get me wrong, like Rex can bring that fire to the, like in terms of his personality to the defense, getting them fired up, bring that motivation for sure. But I'd rather have someone that is still active, you know, but but we still went with Mike Zimmer, who had a couple of years off ever since being departed from the Vikings. And we will talk about Mike Zimmer as well. Oh, your phone going off?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, my bad. I had it too close.
So yeah, you get what I mean. It's I'd rather have someone that is currently active in the league, that has a little bit of an aggressive side to them, and is willing to really step it up. And there's a few names out there I think, okay, it makes sense, but I do have some questions. We will dive into that. So obviously we mentioned All right, like calm down, calm down. So, right, so obviously the first name in the books is Leslie Frazier, the assistant head coach, OC, whatever you want to call him, for the Seattle Seahawks. Extensive coaching background in the league and in college.
Yes.
He has won the Super Bowl with the Indianapolis Colts as a coach. I mean, to me, that's probably the most experienced person we're going to be interviewing by far.
Yeah.
It kind of I can understand why we would interview him, but I don't know if that's someone. Well, in saying that, he did kind of transform the looks of like Geno Smith. He did kind of reinvent his career.
Mm.
So there is a positive there, but is it that type of style of offense we want? Possibly. They had DK Metcalf that kind of worked well for them. They're running. I tend to find their red zones a lot more successful than ours. I mean, there is quite a few positives when it comes to it, but there has been a few question marks not from yourself, Mike, and I know where you're going to go with this, but are we just bringing in Leslie Frazier for the Rooney Rule essentially?
Does tick the box, which is sad to say, but I think with Leslie Frazier, I do like him, and when you look at his defenses, they've finished like
that's it. He's had multiple top 10 defenses over the course of being an NFL coach, whether it's a defensive coordinator, assistant head coach, whatever. So he's doing well. So
here's the trouble, right? When I look at a lot of the names that come up, and when you look at some of these coordinators that are coming out that are trying to go for a head coaching role, there is a high number of, and this is something I was thinking about this morning. There's a high number, when you look at it, of defensive coordinators that are coming out, right? And this is my thought. So my thought is if there's a lot of defensive coordinators out there trying to get a head coaching role, there's only so many. Well, then they're going to be looking for defensive coordinator roles because there's going to be a nice batch of them. So my thought is why not, rather than trying to push for a defensive coordinator as a head coach, get an offensive coordinator. The head coach, these defensive coordinators that you have a plethora of, that don't get a head coaching role. Now you've got your pick of the bunch to be your defensive coordinator.
Well, you could argue that with Dan Quinn for Washington. Yeah. He's a defensive coordinator. He brought in Cliff Kingsbury, who we are going to talk about next. Brought him on board, and they're in the playoffs. They're going to be playing, fun enough, Dan Campbell, this weekend. So Washington went well beyond their expectations this year. They were expecting it to be a very tough year with a rookie quarterback, basically a whole switch 360 on their whole team, and they have done it. They have made it to the playoffs. They're in the divisional round, and all credit to Dan Quinn. But I think I don't think it's a matter of having a defensive coordinator as a head coach or having an offensive coordinator. I think it's bringing in the right people. Like,
me being particular is all it is.
I know, but here's my point on this. Defensive coordinators will have certain coaches, like certain positional coaches that might look for that step up. Like, remember the linebacker coach for Dallas that became a defensive coordinator for the Colts? Is it a Matt? What's his name? He was heavily rumored to be a Cowboys head coach at one point 5 years ago, where we were getting Mike McCarthy. I'll need to look it up now. Oh God, Matt something.
Matt. But I don't mind the idea. And the thing is having a defensive coordinator.
Matt Elberfluss.
Oh, Matt Eberflus. Sorry, yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the idea of a defensive coordinator. I mean, like when you look back, we've had, for a while now, a lot of over a decade and a half of offensive coordinators as head coaches. when you go back, Garrett, Mike McCarthy. So, like, how about go back the other way and find a more defensive-minded head coach? Because we haven't had one of them in a while. So it kind of balances the roster out. Matt Eberflus,
Well,
I'm on the fence.
he just lost his job with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
So.
I'm on the fence with him because more than anything, he did struggle with the Bears, but it's the Bears. There's a guy we're about to talk about who I think got done dirty,
Yeah, I totally agree. But as I kind of mentioned, earlier about Dan Quinn, his offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, has now just been announced as the potential betting favorite, according to some betting websites. Like, I don't remember the name of the brands or companies. I think it's like 888 and stuff like that. He is rumored to be the favorite to take on the head coaching role. I'm okay with it, if I'm being honest. Like, I know he's an offensive coordinator, but if there's one thing that Kingsbury can do is score in the red zone. He can certainly do that.
Yeah. Again, another guy who Cliff Kingsbury's another guy I'm on the fence with.
It's not my preferred option, mate. It's not my preferred option. But
I wouldn't have.
I could see why we do it. I could see why we would go for Cliff Kingsbury. I can see why.
His time in Arizona was very jumbled.
Mixed. It was very mixed. Because the time when he came in, they drafted Josh Rosen because, like, that I felt sorry for that kid. I really do. I felt Josh Rosen was probably one of the best quarterbacks going into that draft. I really did. And he was basically he got drafted to a system that did not work for him. And this is what I keep saying about the NFL draft when drafting quarterbacks. It's like, just because they're a stud in college and you draft them, they might not necessarily fit into your system. I mean, take Sam Darnold when he went to the Jets. Take Bryce Young as of right now with the Panthers. I'll tell you this right here, right now. If Bryce Young was to be let go from the Panthers and go somewhere else, I think he'll flourish even more. Just like Baker Mayfield did, just like Jared Goff did with Detroit. That's just to name a few.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm more interested, to be honest with you, in the next guy. But I'm more interested, funnily enough, in not so much a head coaching role, but being on staff with the Cowboys.
Yes. So, as I kind of mentioned about the New York Jets, Robert Saleh, the former head coach of the New York Jets, former defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, who was phenomenal for the 49ers. That's why he got a head coaching role. I totally agree. I would rather have Robert Saleh as our defensive coordinator coming to Dallas rather than a head coach. Make him rework that up, getting back up to that level again. I don't think like getting sacked. Like I know the whole thing with the New York Jets. They're just like Chicago, a bit dysfunctional, a bit like us as of right now.
Yeah, but we haven't got an Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, we don't have a player dictating the whole team and the whole coaching staff.
Acting like a crybaby.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
that's what I was saying earlier. When I said about doing dirty. I think the Jets done Robert Saleh dirty. And a lot of people will say,
I totally agree. I don't think he didn't deserve to get sacked.
Definitely
and you saw their defense got really good under his first season with them. Like they had Sauce Gardner in there. They made some had some really good defensive ends. In fact, and I could be wrong.
Their defensive line was really good.
I could be wrong here though, mate. Carl Lawson was part of that defensive line.
He might have been.
I could be wrong.
Yeah,
folks,
it might be. I'm trying to think.
If you listen, folks, if you're watching here on YouTube, please let us know in the comments. Did Robert Saleh had a Carl Lawson of one of his defensive ends? Like, because I would look it up right now, but I just want to confirm from the fans and that. So if you but before you do that, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and it would mean the absolute world to us, folks. But yeah, but when it comes to Robert Saleh, he does bring that drive. I do. That's one thing I like about him. He knows defenses for sure. Like you saw what he saw what he did at San Francisco.
Carl Lawson was on the Jets, by the way.
Oh, he was. Ah, perfect.
Yeah, last year. Yeah. So we did get that one right, mate.
Wow. And that was me taking a stab in the dark there. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, because when you look at Robert Saleh, what he did in San Francisco, yeah, he had Nick Bosa, but he had guys like Frank Warner and stuff like that. Like, and really
no nonsense defense.
No nonsense, no charades. It was straight up punch in the face defensive football, stopping the run, dropping back in coverage, basically nullifying all the offenses, and he helped them got to multiple Super Bowls. Like, well, obviously they didn't win them, but still won the NFC Championship games.
Took the Chiefs to the edge.
Absolutely, yeah. Totally. And people say, "Oh, Brock Purdy, he helped us got to the Super Bowl." I argue that. I think it was more Robert Saleh, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And defense do win championships. Defense do win championships.
Yeah. And it's funny how that gets thrown to the side when we start talking about the offense and quarterbacks and everything. Suddenly the defense wins championships comment gets taken away. I'm hearing all about how good Matt Stafford is in the playoffs. And I'm like, wait a minute, doesn't defense win championships? Where did that go all of a sudden? But anyway, I'm a fan of the Saleh as a defensive corner. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that would almost have a very mirrored effect of what happened when Dan Quinn got in.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 100%. And I think with what Robert Saleh can bring to the table as a defensive coordinator, the guys like Micah Parsons, like Overshawn, all your defensive backs, they would step in line and just absorb all that information from like Saleh, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I like the as a head coach, I don't know. As a coordinator, yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah, like if Robert Saleh was appointed head coach, I'll be like, you know, that type of feeling where you just kind of cross your arms and you just kind of wait to see what happens. That's where I'm at with that, because I just don't know yet. Because I think unfairly, him being the head coach of the Jets, it's the Jets. Yeah. Let's be honest. He had Zach Wilson for 1 year, and he had Aaron Rodgers, who pretty much forced him out the job.
Yeah. They done him dirty there.
Yeah, so I think it's very hard to assess Robert Saleh as a head coach. He's definitely capable of doing it, but I think if he was to come to Dallas, I think this will be the true testament of him really running the reins. And I think that's why I'm kind of like, I just don't know what to make of it as of yet, but we just have to wait and see. But moving on, we do have pretty much the fans' preferred choice in terms of who we would like to be our next head coach, and that is offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, Mr. Ben Johnson.
A lot of people have been talking about him, haven't they? For a long time too. Like, this was a conversation that has been going on, you know, since we were getting towards the back end of the season. People were like, Ben Johnson. And so, I mean, I get it. You know, when you look at what they've done over in Detroit, how that offense, since he's been there, has progressively become better and better. I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, let's just get your take on it rather than mine.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what Detroit's offense is like, right? Yeah, they've got Jahmyr Gibbs, a first-round talent. They made the trade for Jared Goff, who also is a first-round draft pick, first overall. No, was it first overall or was he second? No, he was first. He was first overall.
Yeah, he was first. He was first overall.
But he was like one of the forgotten players out of that trade. Like, people thought the Rams got themselves like the best out of that trade. I beg to differ now. And this goes back to my point. quarterbacks in certain systems might not necessarily work out. When you go to a different team, that system might work out for you, and it's clearly working for Jared Goff. And he's not making like really bad play, like interceptions.
Bonehead plays, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not making. But he's being very conservative in terms of his plays,
Yeah.
and I think that is like it's almost like it's on autopilot mode in some way. And I find that's where the offense, like they're just very comfortable. But when you look at of what they've managed to achieve with what they have, like Amon St. Brown, like I don't know where he was drafted, but he's emerged to be an absolute powerhouse for the Lions right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, he's a great
you've got Sam Laporta, their tight end, a guy that we would love to have had in Dallas. Like that, he was one of our like top tight ends we wanted in this year's draft. Not this year's draft, a couple of years ago. But and we ended up getting Shoemaker instead.
Yeah. I mean, they do have a fantastic offense. Definitely, when you look at the way that they built that offense, it's done on power and speed. That's for sure. I mean, I'll just in terms of having Ben Johnson in, I wonder, is he got the patience perhaps to be a Cowboys head coach with Jerry Jones?
I don't think it's necessarily Ben Johnson. I think it's anyone we do hire, to be honest, Mike. That's the problem. That's the main problem. It's not so much who we generally do bring in. They might have the best ideas that might actually evolve our football team, but unfortunately, everything evolves around Jerry. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that was what my tweet was all about this morning.
Yeah, and I saw that, dude. Yeah, and I
noticed you retweeted it straight away. I was like, yeah, he's in there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. Totally agree with you. But yeah, folks, be sure to go and check out Mike on X at KenFig Cowboy with a K and me, yeah, obviously. But you're more active than I am, to be honest.
Are you very active on the World's Team Twitter?
Obviously, yeah. But before we do move on from Ben Johnson, we will be back in one moment after these messages.
The World's Team Podcast is brought to you by Cowboys Experience, the ultimate Cowboys experience with stadium tours, meet and greets, tailgating, game tickets, and much more. For more information, please go to www.cowboysexperience.com.
Yeah, be sure to go and check out cowboysexperience.com and be sure to go and contact them for the future 2025 season packages.
Yes.
Obviously, we will be getting, me and Mike will be going towards looking at Thanksgiving next year as part of the UK Cowboys fans. Big, massive.
And we're going this clobber?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going the World's Team clobber.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But yeah, so the next name is definitely not going to be a head coaching discussion. It's more of a coach discussion to bring on board.
Yeah.
DeMarco Murray is actually being named out there as a potential coach. Running backs coach, most likely.
Probably, yeah.
Which makes really good sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
I mean, look at what you're dealing with. I mean, you're dealing with a guy that, when he got to his... I always say, look at guys in their prime when it comes to running back, kind of like boxers, or UFC fighters. Never look at what they were like at the tail end or the start. Look at when they reached the apex of their career. When DeMarco Murray did that, he was setting NFL records. I mean, he beat O.J. Simpson's record, a lot of the success of what the Cowboys had going in that fight, in that season where we were like, oh, we're going to make the playoffs and we're going to make a deep run, was purely based on two things. Well, three things. It was Des Bryant, the offensive line, and what DeMarco Murray was putting out.
Don't forget Tony Romo. Don't forget Tony Romo.
Romo was, of course. But, Tony Romo, was absolutely perfect. He was a surgeon of the offense. And all these other guys were
especially in the 2014 season, 100%.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a special season where it all came together.
Yeah, that season was probably the best that we played offensively by a long shot. A long shot.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunately the person that knocked us out was the way it ended. That was Green Bay, the no catch. And funny enough, it was our former head coach Mike McCarthy that actually threw the flag and put us out. I hate history sometimes. I really do, Mike. But but yeah, like I will say though, if DeMarco Murray was to be brought in some capacity,
I'm all for it.
I'm all for it, but it makes me ask the question of what type of running game is he want to bring? Because I don't think the likes of Deuce Vaughn or your smaller, more nimble guys that are more
scat backs,
more skillful for like they're not as powerhouse based.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
that's what I'm
scat backs. Yeah.
So I think if DeMarco Murray was to come in, he would have an expectation I want to run this type of running game with his offensive coordinator, whoever that may be. So to me, that might have an implications if who we do go for in the draft. We will kind of mention some names of any standouts that we might like, whether it's offense or defense later on at the end of the show. But I think that might have an effect. I think depending who we do bring in as head coach, DC, offensive coordinator, it might give us an indication where we might be going in this year's draft.
That's exactly that. Yeah, for definite. I think DeMarco Murray doesn't give you an indication of where the offense is going, but head coach and the two coordinators will be the biggest indicator. And then we can start,
try and piece the puzzle. It's like solving a Rubik's Cube, essentially.
Yeah. Game of snakes and ladders. So, we're going up the board and trying to figure it out. But for definite, I'm with you there. But the other guy who's been mentioned, another legend, there's another guy, Paul, if you want to mention him. He's been touted as being in some form a coach here at Dallas.
Yeah. Former Cowboys legend, tight end Jason Witten, who is the head coach of high school football team of Liberty Christian High School.
Yeah.
Or is it Liberty Christianity or Liberty Christian? I don't know, but
one of the two.
But it's Liberty High School then. All right.
Yeah.
But he won them a national championship, I believe.
Yeah. Or whatever their version of it is.
Yeah. I like Jason Witten. I like what he's doing with the kids, but I think it's too much of a jump going from dealing with kids to growing up with straight grown-up adults.
I don't mind if he's the tight end coach.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Offensive coordinator, head coach, forget it. We're too much of a jump, like you've already tested.
See, so and here's the funny thing. You're talking about familiarity, right? Here's my thing. We might bring in a head coach is not familiar with how Dallas works. We might not have an offensive coordinator that doesn't know, like maybe a stranger or a defensive coordinator, but positional coaches, as we mentioned, DeMarco Murray and Jason Witten, they could bring some good value to like this is what's kind of expected, like from Jerry, like to give them the heads up type of thing to might ease in whatever that may be. That's where I'm kind of thinking behind that. But for Jason Witten to be head coach, I'm sorry. He's not ready. He's definitely not ready for it yet. If it was me, I would love to see Jason move on to a college team, say what he does with that, with young adults. Then we can start having that discussion as a potential head coach. But I think maybe 5-6 years down the line, I can expect to see Jason Witten in some capacity being in a head coaching role in the NFL, whether it's with Dallas or someone else.
Yeah. I mean, look, he doesn't fit really a couple of major check boxes for Steve and Jerry to be a head coach, but he does check boxes as a positional coach. So I think that this is maybe more where this rumor is aimed at. And if it happens, I love it.
Yeah, totally. And just to finish off, another former Dallas Cowboys player, the one it's making all the headlines across social media, all the headlines on the mainstream media on ESPN, is no other than primetime himself, Mr. Deion Sanders. I don't know about you, Mike. It certainly would be different, but I do have my hesitations because of one thing, really, and that's he's so fixated on having his kids on board.
I mean, there is that, like we would have to do quite a bit of work to trade up to get Shedeur Sanders. I keep saying it that way, Shedeur Sanders. Anyway, to get hit that high up the board, we're going to be looking at some major changes.
And not just that though, mate. We cannot afford to trade up. We cannot afford to do it.
Very true.
So the likely likely possibility of that happening is zilch. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like I cannot see us drafting up to get a quarterback when we've got a quarterback already
locked in.
Like and that locked in for what 4 more years?
The 3, I think now, isn't it?
Oh, is it 3 years? All right, 3 years because you just played this season. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, no, you're right, mate. You're right.
No. But like, and the thing is people keep saying, "Oh, what about this for a trade?" And they're like on about trading to Tennessee or the Giants. Bear in mind, Dak has no trade clause, so there you go.
So it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And when it comes to trading, the more likely case we're going to trade down, especially especially when it comes to position of need, right? And as we said, folks, as once we've got our head coach and stuff like that, we're going to be going full on NFL draft mode. We're going to be doing mock drafts, etc.
Oh yeah.
But my gut feeling is we're going to have a dance partner and somewhere in this draft in the first round. Maybe move back. My guess, I think it might be Tampa Bay or something like that. It could be them. Could be. I don't see it being Atlanta because they don't have enough draft picks this year. I think they've got only like 5 draft picks or something like that. But when it comes to Deion Sanders, he brings pure entertainment. Like
that's the thing. That is what he will do, right? I don't know if he's a good head coach. When you look at Colorado, you kind of go, yeah, he didn't really bring what he promised. They got better. They weren't great, though. So you kind of like go, well, what if the Cowboys are kind of like where they're at now with Deion Sanders? We're a fringe playoff team. You go, well, that's what it'd probably be like. But the one positive thing that Deion will bring is the circus. And at least if we suck, we will suck being entertaining.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but way back in the 90s, Jerry and Deion as the player, they did a lot together in terms of the media circus, but it's going to be a completely different chemistry when it's the head coach and the owner GM. Completely different because it's more button heads. You're not button heads with the player. That's what you've got your agent for.
Yes.
But with the head coach and general manager or owner, like there's going to be some really hard talks. And when it comes to it, Deion is that type of guy that will take on that spotlight away from Jerry. I don't think Jerry will be too happy about that regard. I could be wrong on that matter. I could be well wrong. It could be the polar opposite. Like, but I just don't know. Like, I haven't seen enough from Deion to really,
as a coach,
to strongly suggest he's the man for the job. Like, but I get why Cowboys fans might want him on board because one, he understands Dallas, he understands Jerry. That ticks the boxes, I guess. Yeah. But I just don't know. Again, I'm kind of like crossing my arms, just kind of waiting to see what happens in that. But And also, there's the big buyout clause as well. I believe it's $10
Yeah.
million to buy him out of Colorado.
And this is a little bit of what I think is going on. Is a playbook out of an old out of Jim Harbaugh from when he was in Michigan. Is he pushing this so he can get more money or a better contract from Colorado? Because he's like, right, I'm going to go off to Dallas, and they go, oh, here's more money, stay. And that's kind of really what Michigan did with Harbaugh. So I'm just wondering if there's this. We always hear this. If you ever want a bigger contract, just say you're moving to Dallas. Could be another move.
I totally agree. And if that's one thing Dion is I can give him a lot of credit. He knows how to get his money. He knows how to get that. So even as a player, through his whole tenure in the NFL, he knew how to get his contracts. He didn't really necessarily need his own agent, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
He knows how to like make negotiations for himself. So I think I just don't know. I really don't know. Like, if it is to be Dion, then get your, like Terrell Owens would always say, get your popcorn ready.
Yeah. He would bring, as I say, he would bring the circus for sure. That's the only thing I can say with Dion for certain with any of this is it would be entertaining. It may not be the best. You're going to come away each week going, how did we lose that game? But he's going to give you some sound bites. He's going to give you some comments. He's going to make you laugh and smile. And it's going to be an entertaining game to watch. But is that what Jerry wants? I don't know. Yeah, he wants entertaining for definite. But does he want that for this team at the stage they're at now?
Yeah, if there's one thing why Brian Sanders makes sense for Jerry is money in general. Jerry will make more money of Deion Sanders being and that's what's been happening a lot. Not so much trying to win championships, but to keep the revenue going up, the Forbes richest sports franchise and of all of sports, keeping that moniker right up there. Deion will be that guy to keep us number one in terms of being on the rich list, but is it enough to win us what fans have been dying for? Is championships.
Yeah.
Is it enough?
Yeah, you haven't seen that from Deion Sanders as a head coach, in Colorado, where you've gone like
or GSU, in fact.
Yeah. I mean, you watch it, you just like go, just like you say, the thing that would bring is the money. You guarantee they would bring the Sanders jersey back out because that would be a big seller all of a sudden. That'll happen, but yeah, for me. I'm out on the Sanders experience.
I stand corrected. He has won championships with Jackson State.
Yeah, with Jackson State, he did win a champion. Yeah. But I mean, you're talking D3 there,
Yeah. He won the SWAC championship 2021 and 2022. He was the East Division champion the same year, and he was also nominated Coach of the Year 2021 and 2022. So, but yeah, it's I am just very unsure at this moment. But I know a lot of our friends are on board with the idea of Deion. I can understand why. Like, it's different. It'll be an absolute circus, and it'll be like content days till if Deion is the coach till he actually steps away or gets fired or whatever not.
It would just be like
I'm being purely hypothetical here.
Yeah. I tell you what it would be. What it will feel like with Deion Sanders in there, it will feel like an Anchorman movie, just like comment after comment. Just do you know what I mean? Just like great one-liners constantly.
Oh God! So before we do move talking on to some draft news, but I do have to comment. Did you see J-Tuck's tweet yesterday?
I don't know. I seen him this morning.
Of the video clip from Coming to America.
Which one did he use?
Right. So basically, it's when coaches are getting interviewed by Jerry Jones.
Yeah, yeah.
You know that the girl is like I like what you like.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I bark
Brilliant.
like a dog, hop in one
Yeah.
foot.
Yeah.
That's essentially what the interview is like. I was like, that is so funny, man.
Perfect.
I was laughing my ass off when I seen that. And it's like, it is so true. It is
Yeah,
so true.
it would be.
But yes, folks, leave some comments on this video. Let us know who you would like as our head coach for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Do you give us, like, if you're a Kellen Moore fan, tell us why. If you want Ben Johnson, we would love to hear why. Like, is our names that have not been mentioned?
Thing you haven't mentioned.
Oh, well, in fact, I've not mentioned my guy I would like to bring on board, to be fair, is Joe Brady from the Buffalo Bills.
It's a good name. Yeah.
Like, and frankly, I'm generally quite surprised he's not been mentioned yet. I'm quite surprised because when you really do think about it, though, Mike, especially this season, he just had a 1,000-yard rusher and James Cook just made it.
Yeah.
But he had no 1,000-yard wide receiver. He's been very, like, a really scattered out offense in terms of distribution. Like, multiple players were seeing the ball, which is great. It keeps defenses thinking. Great. But obviously, credit to Josh Allen, who is pretty much like a dual threat in some regard, especially in the red zone. That's what made them quite successful, putting points on the board in the red zone, is because of Josh Allen's individual effort. That might be different if we were to bring on board here, because obviously Dak rushing with the ball now is kind of a bit of a because we don't want him to get injured again. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So, but I think what Joe Brady has done for Buffalo speaks volumes for itself. He's constantly kept Buffalo basically top of the pile since New England dropped away from Tom Brady, essentially.
Yeah. But that's a good name. I mean, I'm sure when we get back to the comments on YouTube, there'll be dozens of more where people are like, I like this guy. So we'll talk about them next week if we haven't got things. So I don't think we will. I think this is going to see us all the way through to the Super Bowl, to be honest with you, because it keeps the Cowboys relevant.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. All right, then, Mike, now we can actually start talking about what we are going to be talking about for the next coming months as the NFL draft.
Woo-hoo.
So, I mean, I'm just going to throw two names out there I think it might be worth looking into. So I've done a couple of quick mock drafts. I've actually did a little bit of film study on one or two players I really quite like.
I like it.
So the first name I want to mention is a position that we've not actually really talked about that much. Yeah, we've got a need for offensive line. Yeah, we do have a need for running back, but defensive end is a position that I was actually looking at, and I have to say I'm very impressed with this particular individual, and that's defensive end Mike Green from Marshall.
Okay, go on and hit me with it.
So looking at his statistics, right? So he had 17 sacks this season. I think it was a total of 38 solo tackles and 3 forced fumbles. Yep. Yeah, I've got his stats right here. But when I was watching his game film, he's got all the necessary tools to beat anyone. Spin moves, clubbing the hands, bull rushing, going in the inside, going in the outside, dropping back, and he's got that speed factor as well, and he's very powerful. So, and the most impressive thing that I really liked about Mike Green is his get-offs, is his reaction to the snap count is remarkable. And this is why, everyone's talking about the defensive ends from Boston College right now. I can't remember the names. They're really high regarded as well. But I'm really sold on some Mike Green from Marshall, a college that no one's really talking about. So to me, this is one of my official dark horses going into this year's draft.
But interesting you picked him because he kind of falls in line with what we went back to
with Marshawn Nealand.
Marshawn Nealand, but Sam Williams. So in terms of so believe it or not, Mike Williams leads the FBS in total sacks. So when you go back and you look at Sam Williams back in the day, he was very, very similar.
You said Mike Williams there.
Mike. Okay, sorry, yeah, Mike Green. It's because I've got like so many names, yeah. But Mike Green. So he led the FBS in total sacks, believe it or not, which is great. You know, that is the thing. You're right in the athleticism. The first step, the explosiveness, is a big thing. He has, you know, his rip and swim moves as well are NFL ready. Like,
I despite he's playing in the FCS, but he shows a lot of signs that he can be a good pro in the league, a really good pro.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm talking about defensive end is, what is the situation with DeMarcus Lawrence? Is he gonna like be much involved next year? Or this
what type of Sam Williams are we getting back?
Exactly. So I think defensive end is a very very underwhelming need. Like no one's really talking about it that much. So it would not surprise me at all in the second round we will go defensive end again. Would not surprise me.
I like. Here's one for you. If you've got his stats without looking, he also, you know, he led in sacks. He also led in tackles for loss. Do you know how many he had last year?
How many?
23. Just wild.
He knows how to break the line of scrimmage. It's very natural to him. So I really like it. So there you go, folks. That's my kind of introduction to who I've been looking at. So I strongly suggest go and watch Mike Green's highlights. There's multiple videos of it on YouTube. Go and check them out. But Mike, give me 2 names that you've been looking at that you think could be a potential need, not a potential need, but it could be in the cusp of becoming a Dallas Cowboys player and could make a major impact.
I like the idea of Abdul Carter from Penn State. Where's number 11 as well? Like Micah Parsons, watch him. He's almost a carbon copy. Imagine 2 Micah Parsons on this team. You talked about defensive end. Like, yeah.
So you're thinking the same as me.
I'm there.
Yeah. Because
you don't have to sell that on me.
Yeah, I don't think defensive end has been talked about that much, if I'm being perfectly honest.
No, not enough. I mean, you watch Carter, the guy is just an animal. You see a lot of Micah Parsons in him, the speed, the acceleration. Played linebacker, just like Micah Parsons, then moved across as outside linebacker and rushing the passer. Fantastic player. Kevin Banks is another one, because I do think, you know, take a pure left tackle this year, move. Go on.
So you're just looking at based on the first round right now. Is there anyone maybe in the later rounds that you're looking at?
So what? I mean, like the other guy in the first round that I quite like is Luther Burden.
The wide receiver.
Yes.
Yeah.
Watch him. If you go and watch him, put in your mind Deebo Samuel, and I just think, imagine CeeDee Lamb with Deebo Samuel. And when you look as well, right? Let's say Brandon Cooks is done. He's gone. He's not coming back, right? Because he is done. That's his, and they want to move on. You look at the rest, like you look at the Jalen's, the Cavante, Turpin on this team. Like, to me, that they're all wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 4s. There's like no wide receiver 2, really. When you look at this, we need a wide receiver 2. I think Burden would make an absolutely fantastic wide receiver 2 opposite CeeDee Lamb. And he's got a little bit of downfield threat. A lot of people keep always talking, he's just a slot guy. He's not just a slot guy. You can make Lamb and Burden interchangeable in which direction you want to move these 2 players. Both of them are yak players for definite. What you want to do is, with Burden, he's not going to give you deep. He's not going to give you these deep routes. He's not a great route runner. But what he's going to do is these short, snappy routes, get open, get free. You just throw him the ball and trust him to go and make plays. The yak on this guy is insane, his yak ability. In terms of, so you want like some later round guys? I mean, because I did do one.
Give me a second and third rounder that you've got your eyes on.
Okie dokie. Hold on, let me take a look. I've got my list here. I do like. Go,
I'll
go
tell
on.
you what, I'll go first, right? So as you were talking wide receiver there,
Yes.
one of the wide receivers I was looking at is Jaden Higgins from Iowa State.
Okay, I'm with
Like,
you. Yeah.
yep. So I think he could be a good valuable option depending on what we do in the first round. If we go
Mhm.
tackle in the first round, I think wide receiver could be like if we were to drop back and pick up a set in our second round or early third round, I think Jaden Higgins could be one of those guys. One of the other names is obviously one of the biggest needs is running back.
I
So there's
think third
two.
round is great for that.
Yes, and
Mm.
one of the guys I'm a big fan of is Devin Neal from Kansas, and
Okay. Yeah.
and later down, maybe potentially in the fifth round, is Taj Brooks from Texas Tech.
I love Taj Brooks. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
great.
so that's the two running backs I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Don't get me wrong, everyone love to see Cam Scatterborough or Ashon Gentry to be a Cowboy, but realistically, I think we might be needing to position like you said, Mike. Running back is quite in depth this year when it comes to running backs.
It is depth, yeah. And you know, you
So
can. I think the third round is the sweet spot where you were aiming. I think is perfect. That's
yeah,
like the sweet spot for like a second round guy that I like. So say for me, see my idea at the moment, philosophy right now, without knowing the coaches or anything. So at the moment, it's in a vacuum. I just look at the wide receiver position, the depth and everything, and it's not as good as it has been in the past. So I'm playing the odds, and I'm going get your wide receiver early because the late wide receivers are very questionable.
yeah.
Get that out of the way. So so there we go. We get the Missouri guy. Fantastic. Second round. Okay, we need a left tackle. For me, the guy who fits in so many ways so perfectly, right with the Cowboys pick as well, is Wyatt Millam from West Virginia. Pure left
I'm
tackle.
so glad you said that because here's the thing. I did
Watch the tape.
one of the last mock drafts I did, right?
Mhm.
And this is a bit of a steep drop. I went from 12 to 29, right?
Interesting. That's a
And
huge drop.
so you can imagine the amount of draft picks I got for
Oof.
this year and next year from this.
Yeah.
So let me read out exactly who I got. So
Mhm.
I got at round one, pick 29, Wyatt
Yeah,
Willem from West Virginia.
nice choice.
Pick Mike Green, second round.
Very nice choice.
Jaden Higgins, second round.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama,
Yeah.
also in the
Yeah.
second round.
Mhm.
So I had three second rounders in this year because of that trade. Devin Neal, third round.
Okay.
I went back to back on running backs with Taj Brooks because
Okay.
we don't.
I do like Taj.
Yep. So we've got two rookie running backs, but
Very different types of running back too. You pick.
and we can work them in tandem depending on the situation.
Mm.
Then after that, that's where I kind of got a little bit more unaware of who I was drafting. So I got Tony Grimes from Las Vegas, cornerback. One of my other pet cats is Darius Alexander from Toledo. I did watch some of his game film. I really like him.
Yeah.
He's definitely going to be a later round pick for sure. But I'm not as fixated on Alexander like I was with Neville Gallimore. I would say I'm more fixated on Mike Green this year than Darius
I do like Mike
Alexander.
Green. I like your Mike Green. Yeah.
And I'd also got Dylan Carnell, safety, Dylan Fairchild, guard from Georgia, and finally a backup quarterback, Jackson Dart from Mississippi.
Ooh, controversial. Yeah, I love the Wyatt Millam, right? You know, people may say you traded down and you've overreached on Wyatt Millam a bit, but here would be my argument. I go, okay, you think taking Millam in the first round's an overreach? This is a guy in the last 3 seasons has allowed 0 sacks. Yeah, has not allowed a sack in 3 years. That West Virginia in 2023, so not last season, season before, had the number 1 rushing attack in the nation. And a lot of this was down to Millam on the left side doing all of this. Reliability is huge. Durability is huge with this guy. And when you think the offensive line had so many injuries last year, I mean, we had so many different combinations. But what this would do, you can get your wide receiver in the first, or if you decide to take him in the first, you've sorted out your first round. You sorted out your first round. You sorted out left tackle. You've sorted out Tyler Guyton moving over to the right. And if you say, like, I'm not so sure, moving around, Tyron Smith is a perfect example of moving from one side of the line to the other. You can create Pro Bowls from it. I love the idea of doing that. If not, I mean, another guy for me is Anthony Belton from NC State, but he's going to be an early day 3 guy.
Right.
There's another left tackle for you.
Do you ever notice though, Mike? Right, it just clicked in my mind, just right there, right now. Whenever we pick a left tackle where people say that we reached,
I know,
and end up being the best. Zach Martin, Travis Frederick. You could even put Tyron Smith in that equation potentially. Some people disagreed with it. Picking at 12, and if God forbid we did go for Wyatt Willem at 12, where you've got like Kelvin Banks and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Like I still wouldn't be mad at it because we had it does sound like a bit of a reach, but how many times whenever we have reached when it comes to offensive line, they've turned out to be the best.
I know this is the Dallas Cowboys, and you can argue about what you want with Guyton this year. There were some moments where he looked great.
Let's remember, right? When it comes to Guyton, he was not the first choice. Graham Barton was the preferred choice, and unfortunately, he got swooped right before our fingers.
Yeah. Yes, I think cornerback is a sneaky need. People aren't talking. People keep saying in the first round they give all these names and they completely wash over cornerback. And you sit and you go, well, what have we got at cornerback? What's going on with Jordan Lewis? We don't know. What's going on with Trayvon Diggs? We don't know. We've got Deron Bland at the moment, and a guy who was good, who did look great. Don't get me wrong, he looked great, but we only have a very small sample size of that greatness. Beyond that, you're like, what are we doing at cornerback? What? It's a need. It is a very, very obvious need.
And obviously, we acquired Andrew Booth, and that was a failed experiment. So I totally agree with you, mate. I think cornerback is definitely, in fact, even linebacker, I would say linebacker as well is a desperate need as well, because Overshawn got injured. We're basically got God, help me out here. We've only got
Maurice Liafu, Damon Clark.
Damon Clark, that's the one I was thinking of there. Damon Clark.
Yeah.
And
but Damon Clark was the forgotten guy this year. He hardly played.
Yeah, hardly played. So I think linebacker we will need to reinforce. So my prediction is we're going to trade back. We're going to get a stellar left tackle, and we're going to get a wide receiver early. Yeah, and we're going to pick up. I think it's going to be one or the other. Flip it around. Wide receiver, left tackle is our first pick. Then when it comes to the third round, that's where running back comes into play. Then after that, I think it's going to be more defensive heavy.
And don't be put off. I know Cowboys fans, when I've got some scouting reports coming out. Do not be put off by 2 names in the first round that are both Michigan defensive linemen. They are both very, very good. Just don't be put off by the helmet.
Third time's a charm.
But I mean, people. I said, people have made the argument with me, and they've gone, why are you doing this? This defensive lineman from Michigan, and I just go Aiden Hutchinson. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, what about other defensive players from Michigan? You go, okay, Jordan Lewis.
Yeah.
There we go. It'll work. It's just, I think what it is, I think more than anything, it's not even Mazzy Smith. I think it's more the Taco Charlton.
Yeah, the Taco Charlton one made no sense. It made no
that
sense.
That will always be the one that leaves.
That was one of the biggest busts. But yeah, folks. But we'll leave it at that for this week. But yeah, like we said, folks, let us know in the comments about the head coaches and stuff like that, and let us know, where do you see the Dallas Cowboys in this year's draft? Do you think we'll go wide receiver first round, left tackle, right tackle? Or we might go somewhere completely different. Let us know in the comments. But before we do go, Mike, please let everyone know where everyone can find you.
Yes, you can find me either on Blogging the Boys or on Twitter, which is at Kenfig Cowboy. Kenfig with a K, Cowboy with a K. And what about you, Mr. P?
You can find me on X at IMPStew and also on Instagram. But yes, folks, we will be back here next week. As I keep saying, we are going to get some special guests coming onto the show. Now it's pretty much our off season now, so things are more chill back. We can actually try and get some people to come into the show and share their thoughts about how the Cowboy season went, how they think where the head coaching role is going to go, or where do we go in the draft. So stay tuned, folks. But as always, here at the World's Team, it's not just America's team, it is the World's Team, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one, folks.
You've been listening to the World's Team Podcast. There's no other team like it in the world. Nothing more electrifying than the Dallas Cowboys. And we're here to prove it. We bring in fan groups from Germany, France, Brazil, the UK, Canada, Japan. We're everywhere, baby. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at the.worlds.team, on Twitter at _worlds_team, and on YouTube at the World's Team. How about them Cowboys?
And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
See you next time.